Hey, you got the wrong camera on. I noticed that. Let me switch that over here. That's better. Yes, there we are. We're back again. Okay, so welcome everybody. It is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the House of Seven Beggars, therefore it must be Zayde Story Corner. That's right, Zayde Story Corner. And we are going to continue reading from the book Classic Hasidic Tales by Mayor Levine. It's a Levi. No, it's Levin. Levin. But he is a Levi. That is probably true. He probably is a Levi. So, we had last week had a really good story. He's one of my favorites. Yeah, I know. That's the one about the what do you call it? The werewolf. Yes, the werewolf. Yes, and the heart of darkness. And so we are going to continue on with the stories, and two more tonight. And let's see. I see we got a few more in the chat room. Yeah, yeah. I was kind of wondering there for a minute. We had Gaketa in there, and we were starting to broadcast, and Gaketa was in there, and and then Susan jumped in, and Max and Kelsey Lynn. So it's starting. Yes, it's starting. More will probably be coming along, and there's a few watching in the background that aren't logged in, but we are always happy to have them too. Yes, we are. Always happy to have them. Okay, so let me get you onto your camera. You mean the one we started with? Yes, the one we started with. Okay, so let's get that on. There I am. Now we got the right camera. Okay, so um, he's classic Chassidic tales, and this story, the first one we are going to read tonight, is called "The Book of Mysteries." In this story, we learn how the Baal Shem Tov received the Book of Adom and of the frightful end that came to the son of Rabbi Adom. It's a very interesting story, that is for sure. Okay, so we should probably get on with it. Yes, we should, very much. Okay, so when the children of Horadenka ceased to sing, remember last week we talked about this. This is the children that the Baal Shem Tov was leading to the school when the werewolf attacked them and stuff. Okay, and then they stopped to sing the Tehillim as they went to school. Okay, so when the children of Horadenka ceased to sing, Israel was no longer content to remain in that place. So he wandered again and returned to the town of Okup, where he had been born. There he became the watcher of the synagogue. The desire for knowledge came to him, and the joy that was given him by flowers and beasts in the forest was no longer sufficient. His mind was afire and thirsty. But this thirst could not be quenched only by those waters that had cooled for ages deep in the deepest wells of mystery. And the fire within him was of the sort that burns forever and does not consume, much like the fire that Moshe Rabbeinu saw up on the mountain. Okay, so the innermost secrets of the Kabbalah were for him, and they were only as stars of night against the sun. For him would be revealed the secret of secrets. The boy lived in the synagogue, but since the time for the revelation of his power was yet far away, he did not show his passion for the Torah to the men of the synagogue. Day by day, he slept on the benches, pretending to be a clod, an uneducated person, that is. But as soon as the last of the scholars blew out his candle and crept on his way toward home, Israel rose and took the candle into the corner and lit it. And all night long he stood and read Torah. Now, in another city, the Tzaddik, Rabbi Adam, master of all mysteries, waited for the coming of his last day. And in each generation, one is chosen to carry throughout his lifetime the candle that is lighted from heaven. And the candle may never be set down. And the soul of the Tzaddik may not return to eternal peace in the regions above until another such soul illuminates the earth. Rabbi Adam was even greater than the Tzaddikim who came before him. For in the possession of Rabbi Adam was the book that contains the word of eternal might. The Rabbi Adam was not one of the innocent souls. Remember, we talked about that last week, the innocent souls, which the Baal Shem Tov was. But because he was not one of the innocent souls, he had led a life so pure that this book had been given into his hands before him. Only 6 human beings had possession and knowledge that was in the book of Adam. Let's turn down the speaker. I will turn down the speaker, yes. The echo must be annoying for everybody. It probably is, so. And you got that big sign on the speaker that says, turn down the speaker. But do you ever turn it down? No. Okay. I get the idea. So let us continue on with the story. Okay. So let's see. But before him, only 6 human beings had possessed the knowledge that was in the book of Adam. The book was given to the first man, Adam, and was given to Abraham, to Yosef, to Yehoshua ben Nun, and to Solomon. And the 7th, to whom it was given, was the Tzaddik, Rabbi Adam. This is how the book came to, or this is how Rabbi Adam came to receive the book. When he had learned all Torah and all Kabbalah, he had not been content, but he had searched day and night for the innermost secret of power. When he knew all the learning that there was among men, he said, man does not know. And he had begged of the angels. One night, Rabbi Adam rose from his sleep. He walked into the wilderness. Before him stood a mountain, and in the side of the mountain was a cave. And that was 1 month. Let me start that again. And that was one mouth of the cave, whose other mouth was in the Holy Land. It was the cave of Machpelah, where Abraham lies buried. Rabbi Adam went deep into the cave, and there he found the book. All of his life, Rabbi Adam had guarded the secret of knowledge. Gazing into it, he had grown old, and he had come to see with the grave eyes of one who sees to the end of all things. And when he saw himself grow old, he began to ask, "What will become of my wisdom?" Then he rose and looked to the Lord and said, "To whom, Almighty God, shall I leave the book of wisdom? Give me a son that I may teach him." Well, he was given a son. His son grew and became learned in Torah. The rabbi taught his son all there was in the Torah. And he said, "My son learns well." He began to teach his son Kabbalah. His son was sharp in understanding. But when the boy had learned the secrets of Kabbalah, he asked no more. Then the old heart of Rabbi Adam was weary and yearning for death. "My son is not the one," he said. Must have been a big disappointment to him. Night after night, Rabbi Adam prayed to the Almighty that he might be relieved of the burden of knowledge. And one night, the word came to him saying, "Give the book unto the hands of Rabbi Israel, son of Eliezer, who lives in Okup." Rabbi Adam was thankful, for now he might give over his burden and die. He said to his son, "Here is one book in which I have not read with you." His son asked, "Was I not worthy?" "You are not the predestined vessel," said Rabbi Adam. "You would break with the heat of the fluid." Then he said to his son, "Seek out Rabbi Israel in the city of Okup, for these leaves belong to him. And if he will be favorable towards you and receive you as his servant and instruct you in his Torah, then count yourself happy. For my son, you must know that it is your fate to be the squire who gives into the hands of his knight the sword that has been tempered and sharpened by hundreds of divine spirits that now lie silent under the earth." Soon, Rabbi Adam died. His son did not think of himself, but thought only of fulfilling the mission of his father had given into his charge. He deserted the city of his birth, and taking with him the leaves of the book, went in search of that Rabbi Israel of whom his father spoke. The son of Rabbi Adam came to the town of Okup. He wished to keep secret the true reason of his coming. So he said, "I am seeking a bride. I would marry and live my life here." The people of the town were delighted and felt greatly honored because the son of the Tzaddik, Rabbi Adam, had chosen to live among them. Every day he went to the synagogue. There he encountered scholars, and holy men and rabbis. He asked their names, but he did not meet with anyone called Rabbi Israel, son of Rabbi Eliezer. Often, when all others had gone from the synagogue, Rabbi Adam's son remained studying in the Torah. Then he noticed that the boy who served in the synagogue also remained there. He saw that the eyes of the boy were bright with inner knowledge, and that his face was strained with unworldly happiness. Rabbi Adam's son went to the elders of the house of prayer and said to them, "Let me have a separate room in which to study. Perhaps I shall want to sleep there sometimes when I study late into the night. Then give me the boy Israel as a servant." Why was he chosen, the boy Israel, who is a clod? The elders asked. Then they remembered that Israel was the son of Rabbi Eliezer. He has chosen him to honor the memory of his father Eliezer, who was a very holy man, they said. When the boy came to serve him, the son of Rabbi Adam asked, "What is your name?" "Israel, son of Eliezer." The master watched the boy and soon came to feel certain that this was indeed the Rabbi Israel whom he sought. One night he remained late in the synagogue. He lay down on a bench and pretended to be asleep. He opened his eyes a little, and he saw how the boy Israel rose and took a candle and lit it and covered the light, standing in the corner and studying the Torah. For many hours the boy remained motionless in an intensity of study that the rabbi had known only in his father, the Tzaddik Rabbi Adam. All night long the boy studied, and when the sunrise embraced his candle flame, he slipped down upon the bench and slept. Then the rabbi arose and took a leaf from the holy book his father had given him and placed the leaf on the breast of Israel. Soon the boy stirred and sleepily reached his hand toward the page of writing. He held the page before his eyes and opened his eyes and read it. As he read, he rose. He bent over the page of mysteries and studied it. His whole face was aflame. His eyes glowed as if they had pierced into the heart of the earth, and his hands burned as if they lay against the heart of the earth. When full day came, the boy fell powerless upon the bench and slept. The rabbi sat by him and watched over him until he awoke again. Then the rabbi placed his hand upon the boy's hand and held the leaf out of the book. The rabbi took the other pages of the book and gave them to him, saying, "Know that I place in your hands the infinite wisdom that God gave forth on Har Sinai. The words that are in this book have been entrusted only in the hearts of the chosen of the chosen. When no soul on earth was worthy to contain its wisdom, this book lay hidden from man. For centuries, it was buried in unreachable depths. But always, there came the time for its uncovering again. It was brought to light, again lost. My father was the last of the great souls to whom it was entrusted. I was not found worthy of retaining it. And through my hands, my Father transmits this book into your hands. I beg of you, Rabbi Israel, allow me to be your servant. Let me be as air about you, absorbing your holy words that otherwise would be lost in nothingness. Israel answered, let it be so. We will go out of the city and give ourselves over to the study of this book. The son of Rabbi Adam went with Israel to live in a house that stood outside of the town. There, day and night, they were absorbed in study of the pages that contained the words of all the mysteries. Israel was one who feeds on honey and walks on golden clouds. His soul swelled with tranquil joy, and his heart was filled with peace and understanding. Often he went with the leaves of the book into the forest. There the words of the book were as the words spoken to him by the flowers and by the beasts. But the son of Rabbi Adam was eaten by that upon which he fed, and yet his hunger grew ever more insatiable. The grandeur of vision that opened before him, the greater was the cavern within himself, and he was afraid, as one who stands on a great height and looks downward. Oh, I hate doing that. I get dizzy doing that. Each day, his eyes sank deeper and became more red. Rabbi Israel, seeing the illness that was come into his companions, said to him, what is it that consumes you? What is it that you desire? Then the rabbi of Rabbi Adam said, only one thing can give me rest. All that has been revealed to me has set me flaming with a single curiosity, and each new mystery that is solved before me only causes a greater chaos in my mind and a greater hunger in my heart. What is the one thing that you desire? Reveal the word to me. The word is involatile, cried Rabbi Israel. But the son of Rabbi Adam fell on his knees and cried, until I see the end of all wisdom, I cannot come to rest. Call down the heights of power, the giver of Torah himself. Force him to come down to us, otherwise I am lost. Then the master shrank from him. He said, "The hour has not yet come for his descent to earth." His companion was silent. He never pleaded with Israel again. But each day, Rabbi Israel saw his face become darker and his body become more feeble. The hands were weak and could hardly turn a leaf. Rabbi Israel was torn with pity for his companion. At last he said, "Is it still your wish that we name the giver of the Torah and call him to earth once more?" The son of Rabbi Adam remained silent, but he lifted his eyes to the eyes of Rabbi Israel. They were as the eyes of the dead come to life. "Then we must purify our souls, that they may reach the uttermost power of will." On Friday, the two rabbis went to the mikvah, where they bathed in the spring of holy water. From Shabbat to Shabbat they fasted, and when they reached the height of their fast, they went again to the mikvah and purified themselves in the bath. On the second Friday night, they stood in their house of prayer. They called upon their own souls and said, "Are you pure?" Their souls answered, "We have been purified." Then Rabbi Israel raised his hand into the darkness and cried out the terrible name. The son of Rabbi Adam raised his arms aloft, with feeble lips moved as he repeated the unknowable word. But in that instant that the word left those lips, Israel touched him and said, "My brother, you have made a mistake. Your command was wrongly uttered. It has been caught by the wind. It has been carried to the Lord of fire. We are now in the hands of death." "I am lost," said the son of Rabbi Adam, "for I am not pure." "Only one way is left for us," cried Rabbi Israel. "We must watch until day comes. If one of us closes an eyelid, the evil one will seize him. He is lost." Then they began to watch. They stood guard over their souls. With their eyes open, they watched. And the hours passed. They stood in prayer. And the hours passed. But as dawn came, the son of Rabbi Adam, enfeebled by his week of purification and by the long struggle against the darkness of night, wavered. His head nodded and sank upon the table. Rabbi Israel reached out his arm to raise him. But in that moment, an unseen thing sped from the mouth of Rabbi Adam's son, and the flame devoured his heart, and his body sank to the ground. But that is the end of the first story for this evening. We shall see what happens after that in the next story, which we will do right after we have our break. So please, stay tuned that we will be back in 6. Now, how in the world did that come up?
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies. Everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And there we are. We are back from the break. Yes, we are. And I'm going to switch back over here. Okay, so that is the first story for tonight. Want to say hello to everybody in the chat room. Yes, we should do that. Yes, we should. Gaketa, Marshall, Reese, Susan Randalls, Sarah Wellington, all the way from New Zealand. Yes, all the way from New Zealand. You said a friend that used to live there. Yes, I did. I had a very, very dear friend of mine who lived in New Zealand for a long time, and his name was Brad McLeod. Went to school with him. He was my closest friend. Moved to New Zealand and was there for a long time. He came back and unfortunately was killed in a motorcycle accident. It was many years ago, but I still think of him all the time. And one day I hope to get to New Zealand to be able to see all the things that he told me about. You know, what did he do? Yeah, he was a bush pilot, of all things. Okay. So, let's see. We also have Don Willinger and Stephen Smith, or Stephen Mills, excuse me, Stephen. And I believe Max is also in there too. It's kind of scrolled up so I can't see everybody. But anyway, so we learned about this book that Rabbi Yisrael had, or was given to him by Rabbi Adom. And what was the name of the book? It doesn't really say in the story now, does it? No, it doesn't. Yeah, it is the book is actually called the Book of Adam. And it is said that the Book of Adam was written, and because it constantly in the story it talks about the leaves. And you would think the same thing, you know. In a book, a page is called a leaf. But that's not actually what they're talking about here. It's a leaf, an actual leaf on which Adam, the first man, wrote this on the leaves of the tree of knowledge and put them into a book. That's why this book is very, very, very special. So, we should get on with the story if we want to finish. Yes, we should get on with the story. So let me get you back over onto your camera. Okay, so I am on my camera now. So we can go ahead and we can go to the book and read. Unfortunately, poor son of Rabbi Adam, it was too much for him. So we will see what happens now. Okay, so this one story is called The Secret Marriage. Here are told the marvelous deeds of Rabbi Israel while he was still a saint in secret, which means he had not revealed himself as a tzaddik yet. Okay, so after the death of his companion, the master forsook the house where they had lived and studied together. Rabbi Yisrael returned into the forest. There, for the length of a day, he sat by a stream and watched the water flowing. And he said to himself, "Shall I go among men, or shall I remain here in the forest?" He thought, "For what purpose shall I go among men? I am the master of all knowledge. There is nothing that I can learn among men." He built himself a cottage, and he lived in the forest. Yet he knew that he must go among men and help them. For what else might be done with the power that had been given to him? "Mankind will contaminate the truth," he said. "Let me remain a while longer where I am." And he waited for a sign. Near the forest was a field where a shepherd came every day to pasture his flock of sheep. The shepherd was an aged Jew. He came to know the young man who lived in the woods. One day he said to him, "Why do you live by yourself? I have a daughter. I will give her to you for a wife." Then Rabbi Israel was married to the shepherd's daughter. For a year's time, he lived in the forest with her together. And in that time, Rabbi Israel was happy on earth. He thought, "Perhaps I shall not ever have to return among men." But when the year was over, his poor young wife died. Rabbi Israel got up and went out of the forest. In the city of Brody was a yeshiva, where many scholars had sat and learned. He went to the hamlet near Brody, and he took work as a school teacher. That's a pretty funny occupation for a guy who never wanted to go to school, eh? But anyway, and he lived in the house of Rabbi Chaim. He did not let it be seen that he was a tzaddik. But Rabbi Chaim's wife, the Rebbetzin, was the sister of the great Gaon Maharim. And she saw that there was a strangeness in the face of this school teacher who lived in her house. Then a thing happened that made her suspect he was a saint in hiding. There was no place for Israel to sleep in the house except a small room in the garret. For many years, the garret had been troubled by restless spirits who came during the night and ran over the walls, hammering and hurling themselves against the floor and making weird sounds of moaning. Rabbi Chaim and all the people in the house were afraid to go up into that room. But Israel went there to sleep. The Rebbetzin awoke during the night. She heard weird moaning of the spirits. And all at once, she heard the young man cry out, "Be still!" From then on, there was no more sound in the garret. This the Rebbetzin remembered. It happened that while Israel lived in that house, Rabbi Chaim and Rabbi Hirsch had decided the judgment of the Torah in a very difficult case. Rabbi Hirsch was the father of Rabbi Gershon of Kut. A man in the city of Kut had gone through Rabbi Chaim's hamlet and had bought a horse. When I reached home, I will send you the money, and you will send me the horse, he said. And so he did. But when the horse came to him, it was lame. The seller said, the horse was well when it started to coot. The buyer said, it was lame when it came. Then who was to bear the loss for the horse's lameness? The two rabbis talked for many hours. If you can imagine that. Two rabbis talking for a long, long time. Can you imagine that? Not so far-fetched, eh? Two rabbis talked for many hours, but could come to no understanding. At last, Israel, who sat listening in the room, said, did the horse draw a wagon on the way to Kut? The man who had sold the horse said, he drew a wagon. What was on the wagon? It was loaded with logs. Then the logs belonged to the lameness. Give the logs also to the buyer of the horse. Rabbi Hirsch was so pleased with the wisdom of the decision that he said to the young man, who are you? I am the school teacher in the village. You are a man whom God intended as the husband of my daughter. I will give her to you in marriage. And he sat down at once to write the marriage contract, the ketuvah. But when Rabbi Hirsch asked of the master, what is your name, Rabbi? The master said, do not write down that I am a rabbi. Write only Israel, son of Eleazar. On his way home, Rabbi Hirsch died. Afterwards, Rabbi Gershom looked among the papers of his dead father, and there he found a marriage contract. Who is this Israel, son of Eleazar, to whom my sister is given in marriage? He asked. But no one knew who that might be. However, his sister said, my father made the contract, and I will wait until my groom comes to claim me. And still, Israel did not go to claim the daughter of Rabbi Hirsch, but remained living in the house of Rabbi Chaim. Once the Rebbitzin had to make a journey to the lord of the district. The way to the house of the parrots led to the forest and was infested with robbers. The Rebbitzin thought, whom shall I take with me to protect me from the robbers? She decided no one would be better than the young man Israel. So she asked him to go with her in the wagon. When they had come deep into the forest, Israel touched the Rebbitzin's arm and said to her, Soon we will be stopped by a robber. Do not be frightened. The woman felt that there was great power in the boy, but she did not know how truly great was his power. She said, I have no money to give to the robber, and he will kill us. The robber who will stop our wagon is one who has murdered many people, said Israel. But his measure is full. He will murder no more. They rode on. The trees about them rose high, and the narrow road was a dark path under overhanging cliffs. It was dark as the inside of a cave. It's a lot of cave talk in here. Yes, there is. I have to admit, there is a lot of talk about caves. But we should go on. Yeah, I just wanted to make that point. Okay. The Rebbitzin said, you are only a young boy. Could you kill a robber with your hands? Rabbi Israel said, I have the power of the word. All at once the horse stopped. The robber stood in front of them. He slapped the flat side of his sword against his legs. Jews, he shouted, get out of the wagon. Part with your money or your souls. We have no money, said Israel, and you have no need of our souls. At this reply, the robber became black with anger. He seized the wheel as if he would wrench it from the wagon and break it over their heads. He began to mount the wagon, but before the robber could swing his foot upward, the Baal Shem Tov looked into his face and uttered a word. The bandit stood petrified. He could not move his limbs, but he still could move his mouth, and filled with with his vile curses, flinging his oath like thunderbolts upon them. He cursed them and their fathers of their fathers. Boy, he must have really been mad. He cursed their children and all the generations of the Jews. He cursed their rabbis with the blackest and most terrible of curses. Boy, this guy was really serious. Cease your blasphemy, said Rabbi Israel. And he looked into the face of the robber once more and uttered the word. At once, the ground opened beneath the bandit, and he sank into the earth up to his knees. Then a wild shout of terror and of rage hurled itself out of his throat. It was like the scream of iron grinding on iron. His arm, with his sword raised in the air, trembled like a beam that is strained to budge a heavy rock. The blood swelled in his veins of his face and of his arm. But with all his force, he could not move his arm to hurl the sword at their heads. Then he burst out more loudly than ever with curses that were more foul than the stench of hell. Upon all the ancestors of the Jews, he heaped his curses on Abraham, and on Yitzhak, and Yaakov, and upon the God of the Jews. Then it is time you were under the earth, said Israel. Once more he uttered a word, and the robber sank slowly into the earth. His thighs were covered, and his belly, and his chest, and his shoulders were below the ground. Then the earth closed over his throat and reached his chin. His cursing mouth was filled with earth, and the earth was in his eyes. His head was below the ground, his outstretched arm and his sword. The Rebbitzin and the boy rode on their way. While their wagon had passed out of the woods, Israel said to the Rebbitzin, "Now there is no more danger. I command you, do not tell any living soul what happened in the forest. You must not tell your husband or your brother, the Gaon of Maharim. It is not yet time for my power to be known. What will be my reward for keeping silent?" said the Rebbitzin. "You will have peace in your grave." For this she agreed to keep silent. Rabbi Israel said, "If ever you are disturbed in your grave, utter my name." Many years later, when the Rebbitzin had been dead long time, and the Rabbi Israel was no longer a saint in secret, but was known among all Jews as the holy man of Mitzbuz, a plague came over the hamlet near Brody, where the Rebbitzin had lived and died. Almost half of the people of the village died, and still the plague continued, and every day the peasants died like fleas. Then the Christians looked towards the Jews and said, "It is their doing." The peasants went on, the priests, and cried, "Only Jewish blood will save us." But the priests held them back, saying, "The Jews are not to blame. The Jews are also dying of the plague." And for a time, the peasants were satisfied. But as the plague continued and grew even worse, the peasants again rose against the Jews. They cried, "The Jews are unclean people. They have strange ways. They have strange ways of burial. Even their dead are unclean. Their dead lie festering in the ground and bringing the plague upon us." An old man among the peasants, known for his wizardry, stirred them up, saying, "I know a cure for the plague. Come with me at night to the graveyard of the Jews. All who come bring spades." That night the peasants lit torches. In the marketplace that was in the center of their town, they built a great pile of wood and made it ready for burning. They then chose 10 men among them and sent them with the wizard to the cemetery of the Jews. "Where is the holiest of the graves?" said the wizard. No one knew. Then they went and seized the keeper of the cemetery, and they dragged him into the graveyard. "Where is the holiest of your graves?" they cried. "Tell, or you yourself will be used to light the pyre." They brandished their torches over his head. The Jew was frightened. He ran in terror and threw himself down on the grave of the Rebbitzin. "Save me, holy Rebbitzin," he cried. And that is where we are going to pause for tonight. I love cliffhangers. Don't you love cliffhangers? Well, it keeps people interested. That's for sure. Yes, I love it. It's like the old serials that we used to have in the movies. You know, it would almost come to the climax, and the next thing you know, the announcer comes on and says, "And next week." So, I suppose you want the other camera. Yes, I do. Okay, so that's the end of our stories for tonight, and we will continue. We will find out what happened to the Baal Shem Tov and the Rebbitzin, and see what happens with this group who wants to have this big bonfire. So we'll have to wait until next week to find out. I love a cliffhanger. Yes, I know. You've done it enough times. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for being in here with us tonight. Don't forget, on Wednesday night is the Torah study with Rabbi A and Ruin. Until then, we will say, Laila Tov!